Hello, let's get some emotional relief, shall we? Now, you can call it anxiety, you can call it emotional overwhelm. It's once you understand what we're trying to do here, it doesn't really matter what you call it. There's four aspects to this. There's understanding the problem, understanding the solution, understanding the pathway, which I'll explain in a second, and understanding and practicing the technique. Understanding the problem, all you have to focus on is mind and body. Okay, so it's what you can feel with your body and what you can see with your mind. When it comes to describing anxiety or overwhelm, if you've done the energy balls video, it's the same principle. Okay, we want to describe the actual sensation, and we can actually map that onto our mind, and we can actually start to see what we're feeling. And this is the key, because once you understand what the pattern is, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the pattern. So with anxiety and overwhelm, there's this feeling of just drowning, of being flooded. And the key word here is intensity, okay? So there's just a lot going on. And it's not tied to anything. It's just like or the waves are coming over you, or there's just this sense of being like drowning almost. And so what we want to do, the solution is a corrective movement. So if something's pushing you one way, then the corrective movement is to go the other way. And then somewhere in between those two things is the balance point. And that's what we're looking for. So if we can think of anxiety and emotional overwhelm as feeling too much, then the binary, so if that's on one end, then the opposite, the binary of it, is thinking, okay? And so we want to, and I'll show you, use my chalk, I'll show you this here. So if this is our baseline, and this is a little bit of emotion, more emotion, more emotion, more emotion, okay? Emotions contain. So what is it containing? When we get overwhelmed, it's not containing anything. There's nothing to connect it to, okay? So thoughts are like structure. And so the key to this is attaching some kind of structure. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. Now, there's nothing wrong with you, okay? This is just how systems work. When systems are aligned and everything, all the parts are functioning, the energy comes into the system and emerges with a product of that system. Now, if we're not aligned, if we're not connected to our own source, what I call your energetic signature, then the energy is still flowing through you, but it's got to go somewhere. And 9 times out of 10, it will go one way or the other. So for a lot of people, they overthink, and for a lot of people, they get overwhelmed. And there's a very easy way to see where you fit within this. If you, just without thinking about it, bring your awareness to your head and just put your hand on one side or the other, whichever you can feel more, okay? Just don't think about it, just whatever you can feel. Now, I've done this with hundreds of people, and almost always, there's only been one exception, and I'll talk about that in a second, almost always, you'll feel your right side more if you're experiencing emotional overwhelm, okay? If you're experiencing overthinking, which is my dominant side, or it was, you'll feel the left-hand side. All right, so the binary balance is to balance with thinking, but we first need to reduce the intensity, okay? So this is the pathway. You didn't get to this point of overwhelm, this in high intensity emotion like that, okay? There was a pathway that got you there. You may have started here, you may have already been, you know, a heightened state of emotions, but you then had to get to here. And the thing is, with whatever you're feeling now, you can amplify it, you can turn it up. So as much as you might be thinking, oh my God, I don't know what to do, and there's just too much going on, you can increase that. And in fact, doing so shows you the path. You get some kind of movement, because at the moment you're probably stuck in something, okay? So in order to, obviously the idea is to lessen the intensity, but you can expand the intensity. And then you go, okay, well, if I can expand it, then I can contract it. The technique, so that's the pathway. So the path that takes you there is the same path that can bring you back. All right? And then we're doing corrective movements. All right? So we're correcting feeling with thinking, we're balancing it. And I'll show you a way to do that in a second that will give you structure. Okay? But if you think about a child when they get upset, okay, and they go, their energy rises, okay, it starts to go up, and then if you need to settle down, you want to come into your body, and you want to come down into here, into your core. So if you can think about, imagine like if you've got 100 units of energy, and you try and shove it into this small container, okay. Emotions contained. It's going to be pretty intense. If you spread that into a bigger container, okay, so you can think of it as expanding out, or you can think of it as, becoming more and more intense as all that energy goes to here. All right, but if we can then put a structure in the middle, then that can expand. So, in the written guide, you can come up with your own techniques. All we're doing is simulating this. We're simulating intensity so that we can de-intensify. And so, coming into your body is going to de-intensify. You're going to diffuse all that energy. Expanding your awareness is going to diffuse that energy. And then we want to understand the pathway. So we go to these areas where we can feel this intensity, and we want to either expand it or become more aware of areas that aren't as intense. And again, we want to reduce that intensity. We want to bring it to the ground, and we want to, just as if you've got a dial. And so you want to just get used to that sensation, and that's the key. It's the feeling, right? We'll anchor it later on with the thinking, but you want to get that sense of that feeling of intense emotional state of just lessening, okay, becoming less intense. How we incorporate the thinking, it's very simple. Your thinking side, thoughts organize, okay? So it can be something, and this is the simplest way you can do this, is create sentences with what you're doing. I. Okay, already I've got a structure. I am. Now, this is where you want to, instead of getting caught up in the emotion, you want to allow that connection to your center. You want to allow and put the structure in place. So I am sitting. I am sitting here with a wand in my hand. I am walking. Okay, you're tying in that structure. Again, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing broken. What we're trying to do is get to this state, to the neutral state. Because when you get here, you're not trying to correct anything anymore. You've found your balance. And once you get into and I keep pointing here, but once you get into the neutral state, you become connected again. While you're in this emotional and you're out here in the pattern itself, you're disconnected. And that's why it can feel like you're all at sea. Come back into your center, get that balance and feel it. Okay, from there, you'll start to connect with yourself. You'll start to connect with who you are, why you're here, what you're meant to do. And this is what I call your energetic signature. Okay, so we're going to corrective, and this can be as simple as moving. Okay, anxiety. So the word itself, and this is, I look into the derivations of words because it often gives you a good indication of what the energy is doing within that word. So anxiety, when you break it down, it actually means a twisted knot. Okay, so like I said, if the energy is not directed where it's meant to go, it will deviate. And the stress and the tension and the pressure that you feel at the moment is your system trying to compensate for that and bring it back into alignment. But we end up fighting it because we're just thinking, oh, how are we going to deal with the pattern? We've just got to deal with the pattern. No, you deal with the pattern to a point, but the whole key is to bring it back here. And then you can then, so once you're oriented within yourself, within this neutral state, you can then choose the direction. But you've got to come back to neutral first. If you try and choose a direction when you're out here, it's not connected to your reality. And so it's always going to lead you astray. You're always going to be pre-charged in everything that you do. So learn to come back to neutral first. Ground it with your body, literally. Bring it out of your head, bring it down, bring it out of here, bring it into here, bring it down to your feet. I used to take this into my local primary school. In fact, this is where a lot of these techniques came from, was I was getting kids to describe what they were experiencing, and then I was like, well, how can we balance that? We can balance that with the opposite. And a lot of these techniques came from that. And so I would teach the kids, first and foremost, because most of us are not fully in our bodies, okay? It's partly trauma, which I won't go into now, but a lot of times we're caught up here. So the more you can get into your body, the more that the intensity will disperse. And it helps us, that's the idea of grounding. And then we want to contain those emotions. How can we contain them? We can attach them to a structure. We can attach them to a thinking state, and we can start to be deliberate in our thinking. You don't have to figure it all out straight away. Like I said, you can just simply attach the emotion to anything. It doesn't matter. And then you just start to walk around with that emotion. Okay? I am walking. But it's the feeling that you want to develop, that calm, neutral. Once you access this, and that's what the neutral workshop does. So this is about dealing with the compensation and getting the binary balance and the corrective movements needed to bring about that imbalance, lessening that intensity so that we can ground and contain our emotions and access the neutral state. Okay? In the neutral state workshop, and I'm not trying to upsell you here, if this gives you everything you need, cool, awesome. If you do the other protocols, or you want to do them, so the Minutes to Mastery bundle, it's only $34. Okay, it covers my platform costs. The neutral workshop, again, it's $34. I've made it a no-brainer. And then if you want to go further, so what happens once you connect to the neutral state is you connect to your inner self. You connect to the system's core, and the system's core is programmed. Has a program. It's your energetic signature. Makes you who you are. And when everything's aligned and you're connected to that, it just emerges naturally. It expresses itself naturally, just like any system. So that's what we explore in the community. But you don't have to worry about that. If all you do is this, and just play around with it. That's all I've done. Like, I haven't learnt this in a book. I'm not following some set thing that I learnt in a course. I discovered this just by being curious. And I figured out early on, well, you've only got your mind and your body. So just become aware of what's happening. And then I've learned to describe it rather than name it. And then, I just started making connections. The pathway principle, the one that gets you there is bring you back. How you do one thing is how you do all things. If you create the conditions necessary, change will occur naturally. You don't have to force anything. Everything up here is force. It's like, oh God, oh, now I've got to bring it that way. And yeah, you can do it. And yeah, you can white knuckle your way through it and use willpower and force, but that's exhausting. And it ultimately fails. So, balance, do the technique. If you've got any questions at all, okay? Like I said, the technique in the written guide and the practice sheet is there for you to use while you're out and about. But this is the key. Just lessen that intensity. Link it to thinking states. If you want to explore more, come and do the neutral state workshop where we learn to access and maintain that neutral state. So this is stabilizing. And the key with this is that once you learn how to access the neutral state, which you can do with the technique, you'll get the hang of it. You can't get any worse because you know that if you go that way, you just got to come back. If you go that way, you just got to come back. You just use corrective movements to bring yourself back to here. And you do that by describing the problem energetically, understanding the problem, understand the solution, understand the pathway, and then you just simulate a balanced state. We do that with this key word, intensity. You go from intense to intention. Intention means to stretch towards. So we create and we control our space. And we're always balancing thinking and feeling. Mind and body working together. Right? Hopefully that makes sense. If you've got any questions, like I said, just email me and I'll do my best to answer them. But emotional relief, you can get it down to pretty much straight away. It's just the decision. Okay?